Hi, everybody. I am Deacon Dave, and welcome to Grace in Suffering, a Lenten Journey. And you're like, what in the world is going on? It's another different podcast. Yes, it is. We have AJ Kelleher with us. We also have the famous layperson, Lisa. So, this is designed to be done throughout the Lenten season, and it's going to be based on St. John Paul II's, loosely, as AJ likes to say, Salvifici Dolores. And so in order to get us started, we have our crucifix. We're going to light candles here, and hopefully you'll see these on every episode to get us going. And so AJ, what can our listeners expect over the next 47 days or so during Lent?
47 days all the way to Easter.
Very good. So we're including Sundays.
Yes,
Excellent.
we are.
So what can we expect kind of as an overview since this is our prequel episode?
Well, for me, I spent seven plus years caring for my husband who had ALS. And during that time, I spent a lot of time just kind of contemplating suffering and how people deal with it, watching how he dealt with it, and was just curious how he managed to deal with it as well as he did. So I kind of started doing a lot of study and read St. Pope John Paul's letter, and was just totally inspired by it, and really am hoping that we can provide information daily that maybe folks who are encountering, whether it's a great suffering or quite honestly, we all are suffering. So the hope is that everyone might be able to find just a little piece of encouragement, inspiration, feeling of not being alone because other people may be experiencing the same thing. We're kind of breaking the 47 days down into different categories, and each one of those categories will have several topics which we'll cover under it that will kind of build, hopefully, up into the resurrection and the hope that we can find in our suffering.
So I think also, AJ, it's something we want to tell our listeners is we did a retreat on this last year.
We did.
And so this is based on the retreat that we did, which was a complete weekend, and it was really quite beautiful what we had. Now, we may joke occasionally, we may have a little fun. Yes, it's on suffering, but we are also called to be joy-filled, even in the midst of our suffering. And I think sometimes it's important for us, and we even talked about this at the retreat, right? That we can't always be completely serious about everything.
Well, and I think it's a good example of that is St. Mother Teresa, because she had that dark night of the soul for 50 years, which is a tremendous suffering, yet she was very joyful, and she always had a smile on her face, and she was, you wouldn't know that she was suffering. So.
Right. She found Jesus in the people that she served.
Yeah, and Jeff and I would, we kind of decided we had two ways. We could be angry and bitter and unhappy, or we could try to find joy and laugh. And it definitely made a difference for us.
So AJ, what are going to be kind of the 7 categories? Let's give them a quick overview so we can tell people what to expect during Lent.
So the first few days, we're just going to be talking about suffering. What about it? What is it? What does it mean? What types of suffering are there? What are some of the causes? What are our reactions to suffering? Then we're going to move into just our need to have to be able to acknowledge the suffering that we're facing. It's real easy to say, no, I'm fine, and to not even acknowledge the suffering that we may feel for various reasons. Mm-hmm. Then the third category will move into the emotions that come about when we're suffering. The very natural, not so good emotions, and then hopefully the more positive emotions that we can look for in our suffering. We'll also spend some time talking about, as humans, we have a need to understand why we suffer and to find some purpose in it. And if we're able to do that, somehow it makes it a little bit more bearable to get through our suffering. Our fifth category, we're just going to focus on Jesus, because he is our primary example of how to suffer and the hope that's at the end of that suffering. Then we're going to spend some time talking about miracles, beauty, sort of the joy that can be found in the experiences of suffering. And then the last category is just going to be to try to provide some tools maybe that help us to find our way through our suffering, to help us find our way through those dark nights.
So a lot to cover. Lisa, any thoughts from you on what's going to be a really beautiful journey here through Lent?
Well, I recently heard, and I shared this with AJ like a week or two ago, that suffering is an invitation to be like Jesus. So a lot of times we feel like suffering is just a really tough place to be, which it is. But when we open up our hearts to the invitation that this could help us to be like Jesus, then we can see some fruit from it.
Beautiful. So, if you're looking for something to do during Lent, congratulations, you've just found it. So join AJ, Lisa, and myself as we kind of delve into suffering and what it means in our spiritual lives and how it can be used to really help us grow closer to Jesus, as Lisa just said. Well, I'm Deacon Dave.
AJ Keller.
Layperson Lisa.
And we'll see you for the first episode on Ash Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
Hi.